morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session for this Monday, June 3rd, 2024. 10:04 a.m. My name is Ty Minter, Chair of the Board. We have Vice Chair Commissioner Wayne Fournier, Commissioner Gary Edwards, Commissioner Emily Klaus, Commissioner Caroline Mejia on Zoom. County Manager Leonard Hernandez and Assistant County Manager Rob Gelder. Public virtual attendance is available on the Thurston County YouTube channel. We're here till noon to cover 3 agenda items, and first up is adjustments to Budget Amendment 1. And Nicole Martinez is here to, I presume, walk us through what this is all about.
So thank you, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, County Manager and Assistant County Manager. Nicole Martinez, Budget and Fiscal Manager. I'm here today for discussion and decisions regarding adjustments to the First Amendment for the 24-25 budget. The 24-25 budget was adopted on December 15th of 2023. And subsequently, on April 17th, I presented to you proposed amendments to the budget, and in the April 29th work session, received those decisions. The Amendment 1 encompasses adjustments such as technical corrections, rectifying errors and omissions, and incorporating unanticipated revenues. The adoption of Amendment 1 was planned for June 4th. Considering discussions surrounding the public safety sales tax funds, the Budget Office examined the various aspects related to the structure of the funds, and we found it best to collaborate more closely with the Auditor's Office, the Sheriff's Office, Prosecuting Attorney, and Public Defense. To carry this forward, I'm bringing before you proposed adjustments to the amendment regarding the Public Safety Sales Tax Fund. In addition, I'm bringing before you a proposed adjustment to the amendment regarding recommendations from the recent audit. So pending decisions today, the next steps will be to post the amendment in the Olympian on June 4th and June 11th, bring the amendment before you at the June 18th board meeting. I would like to bring to your attention at the June 18th board meeting, the amendment must be voted on in the whole. So the decisions made today will be placed on the amendment for that vote on June 18th, and at the board meeting, there is not an ability to take or add items to the amendment once that has been decided today. So next, I would like to present to you the 3 proposed adjustments to the amendment, but I'll pause for any questions before we jump into that.
Any questions from Nicole?
Is this going to include some kind of a reappropriation for $4 million or something that's coming up?
I'm not 100% sure
okay.
what you're asking.
If it's not a number you're familiar with, good.
I think the answer is, you're thinking of the end of year surplus that was $4 million. Some of that.
No, it's another issue, but I think we are doing something on Reed. We're going to pass on some money, I think.
Yes, there is a proposed recommendation for the REIT and relating to the audit.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so then I'd like to draw your attention to the sheet in front of you.
Hold on a sec, Commissioner Mejia. Sorry.
Sorry, just for clarification's sake, are we going to be seeing kind of the impact to the general fund with the 1.6 in REIT today, the transfer?
Yeah, so it's budgeted for $1.9 million, and we do not have the model to show, but I am sure I can speak to what the impact to the general fund is with these changes to the amendment.
Perfect.
And Nicole, wasn't the 1.9 coming from the anticipated surplus or savings at the end of the year?
That is correct. Right, with the increased fund balance at the end of 2023, we'll be moving $1.9 million out of the general fund to REIT proposed today.
Okay, go ahead. Yep.
All right, so the sheet in front of you is titled Adjustments to the 24 Amendment 1, and that's the sheet I'm going to guide us through for the next 3 proposed adjustments to the amendment. So the first adjustment is to remove the transfers that move general fund appropriation from the Sheriff's Law Enforcement, Public Defense, and Prosecuting Attorney to the Public Safety Sales Tax Funds. So in the sheet in front of you, it's titled Remove, and it says Transfers from the General Fund to the Public Safety Sales Tax Fund Change Request. I'll hold up my sheet, it has some notes on it, but it looks like this. So there are 4 requests there. The first 3 are from the departments and 2 offices that had general fund appropriation, in which we were going to transfer that general fund appropriation into the public safety sales tax. The last request there is the MOE that would have been transferred from the general fund into the public safety sales tax fund. I'm proposing that we pause that. We do not include that in this amendment and give the budget office the opportunity to work more closely with the auditor office and public defense and the prosecuting attorney. Any questions?
So basically, something like this or might happen in a future amendment, but we're just gonna pause on that so we can work out details more closely with the involved departments.
That's correct, Chair.
Questions on this from the board?
Okay, so I'm gonna call for a vote as I go through each one of these changes. So I'm gonna call for a vote on this action here.
You want us to vote on it?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't tracking that. So you, does someone need to make a motion or you're just gonna basically say
So
line by line?
Yeah, so this action right here, transfer from the general fund to the public safety sales tax fund to remove that from the change request.
I guess
From the amendment.
if we're gonna do that, can you point out exactly what page and everything
Sure.
that you're on?
So it's the adjustments to the 2024 Amendment 1.
Just make sure that I've got it. And they didn't come in a particular order in the packet?
This is new, it's not from the old packet.
Oh, okay. Well, somehow I guess I didn't get it. Okay, thank you.
Yes. So the top portion here, where it says remove transfer from general fund to the public safety sales tax fund, change request, this is to stop that action. So to leave the authority in the public safety sales tax as it was when we approved the biennium, we should not do that transfer. This would be a change to the amendment, and so I'm asking for the vote on that
Okay,
specific
thank you.
item.
So we just need to do thumbs across
Just
the
thumbs
thing.
up, yes, sir.
On this one. Okay, 5 thumbs there.
Thank you.
That's just kind of put it on hold for now.
That is to put it on hold, let us go back to the drawing board and speak with all the departments and offices and present something to you with recommendations. Okay, so then the second item is to approve change requests from the offices and departments intended for the public safety sales tax fund. These requests have been resubmitted to request general fund authority. To maintain the authority in the public safety sales tax fund that was set at the biennium, I'm proposing to maintain them or budget them in the general fund. These requests come with offsetting revenue, and where you don't see offsetting revenue, I'm prepared to give explanation for that. So on the sheet again titled Adjustments to the 24 Amendment 1, underneath the section called Approve, it says Authority in the General Fund. There is a list there of change requests. These change requests are from the public defense, prosecuting attorney, sheriff's office, where they had revenue booked. And so they're asking for the expense authority, the majority of these requests here. These are departments that normally would have budgeted in the general fund. So I'm asking that they still continue to have that authority in the general fund because there's offsetting revenue. There are 2 items that do not show revenue. The first one is the first line there where it says A10202. That is credit card rebate distribution. And the reason why the revenue is not booked here in 2024 is because that revenue was received last year. And that was through the uses of their credit card, different departments and offices. They used their credit card, they got revenue deposited in 2023, so they're asking for the authority to spend it this year. So you do not see the line with the revenue this year, but it is in the fund. And then the second one is the fourth from the bottom. And it is A11005. The amount there is for $28,000, 446 you see, and that is for the purchase of the K-9 through the sheriff's office. They received that revenue in prior years, so they're asking for the authority to spend it. And the remaining of those items there all have offsetting revenue.
I seem to remember this grant was connected to the K-9 like camera technology we were talking about?
The K-9 units,
Or is
that's,
this just the K-9 itself?
yes, the K-9 itself.
Does this one include like all the equipment for the K-9 too, the 28,000?
I could look into those details as to what the details are to this, but I will add that this expense authority comes with offsetting revenue that is inside of the fund.
We have the sheriff here who's giving us a third base nod. Does include the,
I think the dog was 15.
That's
then
what I thought.
remaining revenue.
I'd say-
The chair is bringing up another grant that we received from the same foundation, but I can't remember, it's separate.
Yeah, I remember Halloran was involved, so it's just, all right.
For the sake of those watching, the sheriff said that the K-9 was 15 and that there's other expenses to get to the total. The chair brought up another grant that's separate, but within the same program.
Thank you, Sheriff. So if there are any other questions? No?
Just, if we could slow down for a
Sure.
moment, just to make sure that as the commissioners look at these items, any questions on any of them, even if they're ones where there's offsetting revenue, just let me know. And these are here because they came up after we did the April decision-making, or why do we have this list now?
Sure. So these are items that you approved during the amendment process. So you were able to weigh in, read the information related to all of these. However, they were booked in the Public Safety Sales Tax Fund.
Oh,
So now we're saying, don't book them in the Public Safety Sales Tax Fund, book them in the general fund so we can pause that, the change in that fund and be able to reassess.
okay, so this is still connected to that,
A big transfer that we're.
okay.
Are we ready for the vote? I don't want to, we're not ready. Okay, so I'll call for
I
the vote.
think the
That's two
chair,
thumbs up?
I think the chair's gotta put us on the hot spot.
Yes.
Okay, thumbs up on the items under the second
Five.
box.
Thank you. So in the third and final item for adjustments to the amendment is the response to the auditor's recommendations, and that is for the $1.9 million to be transferred back into the REIT fund. With the fund balance that is in the general fund, we're looking to move that 1.9 from the general fund into REIT. And so that is the last item here for adjustments to the amendment.
I do have a
Yeah, go ahead.
Oftentimes, when we're referring to REIT, sometimes it's referred to as REIT, sometimes it's REIT 1, sometimes it's REIT 2, sometimes it's REIT with a line item number that goes along with it. So, the only thing I'm asking here is that, because REIT 1 and 2 get, I don't know, confused, what's that number? It's like 3160, or is that, am I thinking of the right number?
Yes, sir. So let me clarify. So there's a REIT 1 and a REIT 2, and that means the first quarter or the second quarter, literally a quarter. And so in this instance, we're talking about REIT 1, and when you're mentioning 3160, that is the fund number associated with REIT 1.
But it's the same bucket of money,
Yes.
correct? It's just when it gets deposited to us.
So it is two different funds, so it is two different buckets of money, and they have different purposes from which they can be used. So the question before you is if you would like to go forward with this transfer, and this is the third request to adjust the amendment.
Thumbs on this. Five.
Okay. So those were the three recommendations I had for you today for the adjustments to the Amendment 1. Just to follow up on the schedule, today we will get ready the posting into the paper for June 4th and June 11th, and then we'll bring this action back to you in the whole on June 18th at the board meeting.
Just going back to the general fund impact, right? When we did the model, we kind of saw where we landed, and knowing that, we approved, it was the 1.6 in the jail cameras, I switched the numbers, and then now with the 1.9 transfer, and then also with the $2 million transfer to the road fund, I'm wondering, even though this are one-time expenses, where does that leave us with a general and fund balance for this year?
Right, so I would have to get back to you on the exact number on the ending fund balance. But in my analysis, with looking at we had $9 million that we weren't anticipating would fall into the fund balance. We are within that, and we are still on track with the revenues that are coming in as far as our property tax and our real estate tax. But in future, we could come back and give you a more in-depth look of that, but we are within that $9 million surplus that we saw in the fund balance.
I know we
saw this in April, end of April. It's been a month, but revenues are still coming in flat also.
Yes.
The commissioner would be happy to bring it back for another briefing, so we can go over specifically that and talk about commitments to date. I think that'd be important just to give everyone up to speed on where we're at.
Okay, so we do have the two postings to the newspaper, but there's not a public hearing that's associated with it, just the two public notices, and then it's an agenda item on the June 18th agenda.
Do those postings say to the Olympian?
Yes,
Did we change a contract to the Yelm paper, though?
not that I'm aware of, sir. Our paper of record is the
It
Olympian.
seems like we,
We are working,
there's some kind of a change afoot.
there's a change of foot, and we're looking to bring back, we did an RFP, our paper of record. We're looking to bring that back. I believe it's the second meeting in June.
So that hasn't changed yet.
Hasn't changed yet, but we'll be bringing back something for the board's consideration soon, based on who submitted for the RFP.
Okay,
So that's all I have for you this morning.
anything else for Nicole before we cut her loose?
There's a blank resolution here, and it's dated for June 18th. Is that when we're gonna
That is correct, sir.
try to make the changes you're referring to?
Yes, sir. It will
Now-
be presented to you.
We don't necessarily know for sure, though, because there's things to be worked out and other players involved. But you're anticipating the 18th, is that it?
So that, yeah, the decisions that you made today will be included in the amendment, and that will be before you on June 18th. So the resolution that you see is the draft of what those changes will be. So my staff have already reported the numbers in anticipation that you would vote yes on all three items presented before you, and these are what the numbers would fall out to be.
So as Nicole mentioned, we do the postings, and then we come back on the 18th for final consideration and a vote from the commission.
Yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
Nicole, put into this. Appreciate it.
Okay, next up, Sheriff's Office Recruitment Centers. Sheriff Sanders is here, and your Sheriff Pearsall's here.
Sheriff, will you join us in this conversation?
Yes.
Yeah, so give a second for Maria's team. Cameron, come on down. Rob will go on team.
Cameron's already been here.
I think they were maybe anticipating a longer amendment conversation, so.
Yeah, we didn't know either.
Yeah.
So would you like to take a couple minute break just until Maria comes down?
Sure.
I don't know, we're just sitting here awkwardly staring at each
Somebody's,
other.
Everybody's acting awful Monday-ish.
yeah, on my head still. Cloudy.
Somebody's got a case of the Mondays. I witnessed you get auctioned off multiple times this week.
Making money for
So
someone.
wrong.
I mean, the price fluctuations were dramatic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How much did it
just
go
all
for?
depends.
Ride-alongs?
What was the event?
I didn't go.
You know,
No, what was the event that we didn't?
The Query Splash Pool?
the Splash Bash and then the Solid Rock.
Two for
Race.
Tenino this week.
Was the Splash Bash this weekend?
Yeah, it was on Saturday.
Yeah, usually I go to that, but,
They auctioned you off too.
okay. Well, usually
You got
I-
auctioned off, you
usually
got
I don't.
auctioned off.
It's a good cause.
Yeah.
I still owe George lunch from last time.
Rob is coming, we're waiting for Maria, who's coming, and, all right.
Cameron.
Just one more moment, we'll get this next item going.
Long time no see.
Okay, everybody's here, so, County Manager, I'll let you kick us off.
Sure. Well, I want to thank the team so much for doing the research and putting this together. They wanted to provide an update on the recruitment incentive and talk about some extensions. And so with that, Cameron, I'll go ahead and hand over to you, and Maria, you as well.
Cameron has the information, so he can give you the updates.
So since we started the initial incentive recruitment for the deputies positions, we've had 23 laterals apply that are in-state certified. Of those 23, 6 of them didn't meet minimum qualifications. 4 of them made it a little bit farther in the process and they failed the oral board. We have 2 applicants still waiting to be scheduled for an oral board. Of those 23, we placed 11 on an eligibility list and we hired 5. 4 self-removed and we still have 2 viable candidates on that list. So I'd definitely say this has been a success. I couldn't do an apples to apples comparison because prior to this incentive, all laterals were put into one bucket, both in-state and out-of-state, so I'd have to look at each applicant and dissect it down. But having run that recruitment program for a few years, there was 1 or 2 a year probably, and they most of them didn't pass the background for either prior to be placed on an eligibility list or the eligibility list, but most were removed for cause.
It's impressive.
It really has been. It's gained a lot of traction and really helped the sheriff's office fill those vacancies.
And I think as mentioned previously, the time that's saved once someone's able to come on in, go through initial onboarding, but then their time to get out to patrol or get to their actual duty station, all that time saved is amazing as well.
Dollars.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because
it
this
equates directly to dollars.
Yeah, because this is catered to people who are already certified, they're not going to the academy, so there's that huge savings, and then the FTO program is shortened by.
A significant period, and it all depends. For our lateral applicants, there's kind of a rough time frame, but depending on, some aren't from the area, so they may need the full 4 weeks. Deputy Braniff came from the city of Lacey, and he grew up here. I went to high school with him, and so for him, from his time of hire to the time where he was completely certified by himself was 29 days, which is like, if you could hire everyone like that, the sheriff's office wouldn't have a staffing problem. We'd be full right now. The problem is we have so many new recruits who are going to the academy, waiting for academy positions, on field training, and for them it's months and months and months, and that's if they pass. We've recently had a few that just didn't pass, so we invested all that time and energy and then didn't make it. So, yeah, considering that, when I first got elected, if we had a lateral apply, I was like, everyone stop what you're doing and go contact them. And then most of the time they self-removed. We recently had a lateral apply who is from Arizona and was fleeing a felony indictment, basically. So people are they're applying for different reasons, and enough said, he didn't get hired. But to actually get some viable candidates out of it, I think is what we're aiming for.
Sheriff, where are you at on vacancies?
We have, this is the last information I had. Normally we get our updates on Tuesdays. We have 6 vacancies in patrol. And I think after today's 2 corrections deputies hirings, we're down to 19 in the jail. And then I think we still have, I just checked it, we have 5 laterals currently in the hiring process that all look good. And then we had 2 more just get scheduled for an oral board, I think, next week.
Okay. I pulled this data Friday, so it's not
Yeah.
changed.
Can I ask on that, the numbers you gave us, are those both sides, correction and law enforcement, or just law enforcement?
This was just law enforcement side.
That's right, Commissioner Heath.
I was just gonna do a follow-up, so there's a possibility, I guess, that you can be fully staffed with, with these 5 coming down the pipeline.
Yes. Yeah, we've had people not pass for various reasons, but if all of the rest of these laterals pass, we will have filled all of our general fund vacancies this year, just off the lateral incentive program.
I pulled this information last week, so I'm not completely in tune with what he's talking about, but just the people in the system, the 2 on the eligibility list and the 2 waiting for oral boards, we fill 4 of the 5.
That's good. Is this just an informational update, or we have a decision
Yeah,
to
I
make?
think the purpose of this meeting was to discuss the incentive moving forward, because we have the patrol incentive that's currently ongoing, and then also the proposal for the jail. And I think the idea behind that with HR was to sync the two of them up and get an extension for patrol and start a jail incentive as well.
So you wanna go over that?
And preferably end both of those, December 31st of this year, so it's, everything ends at the same time. So with what we've seen here on the patrol side, I think this program is working. I think an extension, because of the cost savings, is a great idea. On corrections, the union was in favor of it. I think we'll see more lateral applicants once we put that into motion. It's modeled a little different, where it won't be ongoing. It'll be the first 10 or until December 31st, whichever comes first, because that cost savings isn't quite there the same way. I would definitely recommend renewing the deputies and creating the corrections.
The thought process, I think, from the corrections side is that there's, I just hired 2 corrections deputies today. They don't have any prior correction experience, but the difference, like is that they will get started immediately. So they're gonna head over to the jail today and start getting their equipment all done, and then this week they'll hit FTO and start their training for FTO because the law allows for that. At some point down the line, they'll go to the academy, and a $25,000 bonus is about what it costs when you account for wages and overtime and whatnot. It almost exactly, I think when we did the math, it was about $25,000 saved by hiring a lateral. So it's cost neutral, but it does save time. One of the big things that we're facing right now is that as things just get busier throughout the year and more arrests are being made, more violent crime is being committed, our jail population is going up right now. So where it was sitting about the 250s, it hit 300 over the weekend, I believe. Our hard population is about 390, which was pre-COVID, where we had, women were having to sleep on the floor inside the transfer unit. We were just completely out of space, and I'm not going back to that. So we would impose jail restrictions before we went back to going into those living conditions. However, the one thing that's not being utilized right now is work release, which has almost, I think, 100 beds roughly in the work release program. So the ability to get the jail staff back up so we can open work release and just relieve that pressure on the main facility is really my driving factor behind this incentive. Get some laterals in quick, get the help, open up work release, alleviate the jail population, get them out back into working their jobs, especially when you look at like the CDP program. All 3 phases are being conducted inside the jail, and that's not how it's designed to work. It's supposed to have.
Is the CDP program going on right now, or is it?
Is it what?
Is it an ongoing program that exists right now? I had that question the other day from
Yes,
court.
it's going. The issue is that it's supposed to go in phases. So at some point in time, you're supposed to graduate to, more of a field approach and work release and community custody, if you will. And right now, because work release is shut down, all 3 phases are occurring inside the jail. So you're not seeing that moving on from the lower level offenders and pushing them back out to the community to get them reintegrated. You're just seeing all the phases occur inside the jail.
How many more correctional officers do you need to be able to?
10.
10 more, then you could
Well,
open up.
9. We want to get to 10 vacancies, at which point we would work on opening up work release. I mean, obviously, as we start to get closer to that, we'll start tapering up and getting the facility ready. But right now, we're not even close when it comes to getting those vacancies filled, because corrections, this will be corrections deputy 9 and 10 this year, and we still have 19 vacancies, so.
Are you using electronic monitoring?
We have abandoned that program internally because the courts have been using third party. So private companies have been, so we have suspended we have suspended the EHM program.
But the courts are utilizing it in lieu of.
If they want, yeah, I don't know. But that freed up 2 deputy sheriffs. So work release, I think, freed up 8 deputy sheriffs, and then roughly, and then the work release was another 2. So that alleviated that overtime.
So the facilities that you would use for work release are vacant right now?
Correct. Yep, those are vacant buildings. And the big thing that once we get closer to this project, we'll have to really start figuring out the infrastructure, because throughout COVID, when we were running short on supplies and whatnot, I know that they pillaged that building a little bit for cameras and things like that. So when cameras were going down, they were basically cannibalizing that building to keep the main campus running.
Cameron, can you go over, I think there's two things we're asking, the board to look at: the extension and the initiation of the program for the correction site. Can you just summarize that again for us?
Yeah, so both have a $25,000 bonus. It's $15,000 up front, $5,000 after the first year, and then an additional $5,000 after the second year. For the deputies, it's anybody who's in-state certified, so that could be whether they're a Washington State Patrol, if they're a city cop or a county cop, any one of those would qualify. For the correction side, it's only people who are CJT certified, so we would not be looking at candidates that would come from Department of Corrections or SCORE, because they have a different training requirement. So that's really the two differences between the two.
And the corrections would be something where we would implement going forward with commission's approval.
Yes. And it would be for the first 10 applicants that successfully get hired, or December 31st. And for the deputies side, it would be until December 31st, regardless of the number of applicants.
Chair, that's what staff is bringing before you for your consideration, is an extension of the current retention program for the deputies and initiating a similar program for the corrections side.
So in terms of next steps, you'll see that on your agenda setting. So we'll be requesting that the resolution for the patrol side be extended to December 31st, and that you adopt a program and policy for the correction side through December 31st.
And similarly, the corrections does not come with a funding request. This will be absorbed through our existing funding.
So this is gonna be on for the 18th?
If it's available date,
It's the
we
last
wanted to
date
present
until
this to you. Oh, before your,
July.
okay, so then we'll work to get it on the 18th.
Okay,
I have a couple questions. I thought we approved the corrections lateral program already. Did we not?
I thought so too.
No, what had happened is you give me the authority to go bargain it.
Okay.
And I've met with the unions, came back, they didn't have any issues, and so now we're coming back to the start to move forward.
Okay,
Yeah, I was with you, I was kinda like.
Yeah, I was like, I
all right,
thought we
good.
did.
That's probably where I should have started. So we previously met with you giving me the authority to bargain.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for the work on that. This sounds really good to me. I know, me and Sheriff Sanders, had a one-on-one meeting, and I knew a lot of this already, and I was like really impressed with the cost savings and how quickly, the hiring is moving. I think that's a really good thing. I was wondering, this doesn't impact my decision today, but just out of curiosity, could we see the numbers of the cost savings? Because what I'm hearing is all positive, and it sounds like the cost savings are really significant, but I'd like to see the numbers just so I can like understand the impact, further. But to me, it sounds like the cost savings is there, so that's great. And then I had a question about the EHM. I know you said we kind of suspended that because the court is doing the scram. Is that what you're referring to?
I believe so.
Okay. Is there like a chance that in the future, maybe when some of these vacancies are filled, we could bring the EHM program back to kind of work in tandem with the scram program? Or is that just something that, since the court is handling it, you're not really looking at that right now?
No, we will. Yeah,
Okay.
it's part of the work release program.
Okay.
It's just it broke off in pieces. So the first thing that went when COVID happened and we went through staffing issues is that work release got suspended. And then when I got elected, we were still trying to find ways to cut back on mandatory overtime. And EHM was still up and running, and I think they had one inmate actually on our county EHM. So we had 2 full-time corrections deputies monitoring, one person, and it just didn't make sense. So we were able to free up 2 more deputy sheriffs, bring them back into just the normal operation of the jail, and suspend that program. So it'll be interesting to see when we get everything up and running again. I do intend on bringing EHM back, and that was something that we had to negotiate with the union because that's specialty assignment and specialty pay and all those kinds of things. But we are going to monitor just how, because the judge is ultimately who assigns where these people go. So there's a big difference between, private EHM and the county-run EHM. And I think the county-run, what you'll find is it's much more accountable. People are being checked up on, 24 hours a day kind of thing. When you go into the private EHM, we've heard that some of them are using banker hours. So if someone violates their EHM and they're, you know, outside of their house all weekend at the bar, and they're not supposed to be at the bar, we don't find out until the next business day kind of thing. So there's been a lot of concerns about the private EHM stuff, but we do intend on bringing ours back.
Okay, would that kind of come back like along with the work release program opening back up once you get those 9 vacancies filled? Okay, cool, thank you.
Yeah, and our target really, I mean, do I ever think we're gonna get to a spot where the jail is just fully staffed, we're good to go? Probably not. It seems to be a lot more natural turnover in jail facilities across the country. But at least if we could get to 10 vacancies, we could manage the overtime a little bit better. And you wouldn't have that high level of burnout. It's just hard to do these extra programs, when deputies are being asked to work so much overtime, so. And to answer your second question, we'll work with the budget office on the cost savings. You're not gonna see anything quite yet, because so far we've paid out bonuses and only hired. 3 of them have actually started working. The other 2 are getting ready to go. So it's gonna be in these next few months that I think you're actually gonna see the overtime costs go down as we fill up our vacancies, and they're not going to the academy. Right now, it's gone up temporarily, and then I think you're gonna see a kind of a cliff as we
Okay.
get full.
There was, what, we talked about one-on-one, the, estimate for overtime being like 500,000 in the first 6 months, but it's hovering around 200,000. So that should be in there,
For
right?
corrections.
Oh, for
Yeah, I'm talking about
corrections,
patrol, yeah, that was the double time MOU. So we met with the budget office and actually showed that overtime has started to decrease in the jail. Because we're hiring so many people, the overtime's actually gone down a little bit. It spiked, I think, in February it was, for sexual harassment training, because we put everyone through on overtime if they couldn't come in on their straight time. But otherwise, we've seen overtime in the jail go down as well, which is why the double time that you guys approved is significantly underspent. So that is a good sign. You've started to see the cost savings in the jail, just by retaining people through the double overtime. People aren't leaving, and that's what kills us. It takes so long to backfill them.
Oh, that makes sense, okay.
That by keeping people and not allowing them to just leave right away, the double overtime, I think, has assisted with that. But what I was saying is on the patrol side, that's where you're gonna see, right now, there's no cost savings, because we're just now starting to see our first 3 laterals, graduate FTO and be on the road. So they need to work first in order to see the drop off, but you will.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this item? We're good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, those are the 2 substantive items, Commissioner items, if there are any.
I have one.
I have one.
I have a letter, a draft letter of support for, the city of Tenino for the Washington State Recreation Conservation Office that I would love to float out to all the commission members if you have.
Is that on?
I'll talk about it this afternoon.
Okay. On the afternoon agenda, perfect.
Okay, I have kind of a heavy topic and I'm not sure if I need to
Ooh.
bring it up now or later, but, I'm very disappointed and frustrated to say that one of our Timberland Regional Library's appointments has resigned. It's Nicolette Oliver. She reached out to me and let me know that she submitted her resignation, to the board, and so we'll probably be seeing that, when Amy brings in the appointments. And I had an at-length conversation with her because what I've realized in looking at our history is that none of our appointments have been able to make it through a full term without resigning halfway through. Nicolette was filling out a term and she got reappointed, and she was in the middle of actually filling out a full term. And it was just disappointing to hear, you know, what I've heard, especially because she's been really such a huge advocate for rural libraries and making sure they're open when the whole situation happened where they were trying to shut down the library in Quinault. Nicolette was very outspoken against that closure, especially because the tribes weren't involved in this whole process, and they found out later on what was happening, and they were really left out of that process. And to hear that, really, to have someone as passionate as her, as someone who loves libraries, who's a woman of color, who's, you know, and with TRL saying that, you know, they are equitable and they're promoting all these different things, but to hear a different perspective from a woman of color who's serving on their board and feeling the complete opposite is very disappointing. And so I wanted to bring this to the board's attention because to me, really, it is a huge loss, right? When we can't have one of our community members really who was passionate fill out a full term. And here we are now, right? And I've started watching some of the meetings, and honestly, like, I've been kind of frustrated with our other appointment as well, and I'm just I don't know if what the next step is, but I just kind of wanted to let the board know that this is happening, and that we'll be seeing that resignation in the packet later on. But I did have a conversation with Ms. Oliver, and you know, she let me know her reasons for resigning, and they were disappointing to say the least.
Did you, should we mention the recruitment that, anyway, I threw a name out and Commissioner Mejia ran with it, and we think we have recruited a pretty good potential replacement for that appointment.
They've applied.
And they've applied. It was a former, I think you know her, Commissioner Edwards, Ashley Brooks, who was a former council member in Yelm.
Yeah.
She lost her election by like 3 votes or something.
Great suggestion. Yeah.
So we checked with her, and she's willing to step up and try to right the ship as best she can. So that name might be coming through.
I like that.
But, you know, it has to go, we have to then send it, it has to be approved by the other counties.
Do the other county commissioners that are overseeing this, are they aware of this?
Yeah, there's a lot of, and there's different reasons for frustrations, right? And I believe that me and Commissioner Swope have different levels of frustration for very different reasons. But, you know, for me, it's just disappointing, right? Like when we have volunteers step up in this role and then feeling like, one, they're not being appreciated. I mean, they're representing, you know, our communities in this whole context, and yet, you know, they feel like, you know, just their whole work and their passion and their advocacy is instead undermined. It's just, you know, and a lot of it are the values that, you know, we're kind of setting forward, and, you know, the values of each of our communities, and so just hearing, I think, that feedback, it was just very surprising hearing about some micro and macro aggressions, you know, that happened, and knowing that Ms. Oliver stepped, you know, she was just like, I just do not have the capacity to keep, you know, kind of continuing forward with this. And I did connect kind of, I did let Ms. Brooks know that, you know, there was a little bit of tension on the board, and just to be like fully aware, I didn't want, you know, to recruit someone and then for them to just kind of come in the blind. So she was fully aware of it, and she's very excited about the possibility of participating, and I thought that was a great suggestion from Commissioner Menser. And so
Somebody might assume that serving on a library board is very,
but
you know,
yeah,
fountain of positivity and cooperation and
I-
education.
Our libraries rot with
And
politics.
may not realize.
I was so surprised to learn that we haven't had a member complete a full term. Like, I was just, because I was like, let us see like this past history of appointments, and
I remember one of our prosecuting attorneys stepped down.
one of
Was
our members
serving.
from the Auditors Hall, Emmett, was serving on
Oh,
there.
really?
Yes, and he stepped down. I think he recruited, Nicolette, and she stepped up to that. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if this is a conversation that, we need to reach out to Cheryl and ask her, like, what is going on? But for me, it's concerning when members are dropping like flies, right, and they can't complete a full term. Like, what is the culture that is going on in the board? Like, what is happening? It is very concerning to me and disappointing.
Okay, thank you for that update, Commissioner. It's important. Anyone else with a commissioner item? We will have commissioners check in at 2 p.m., so think of anything, we can address it then. Is there anything, I don't have the agenda in front of me. Do we have any substantive topics on the 2 p.m.?
Just the letter.
Oh, the letter that Commissioner Fournier
I can go to
mentioned.
that now, if there's nothing else to go over this afternoon.
I guess I'll bring up one thing.
Okay.
Mr. Pettit sent something in about an air handler. Air handler? No. Air curtain. Air curtain. Trying to point out that when we don't follow the bid process, sometimes we don't get a good deal. And, I don't know if there's anything that needs to be corrected at this point, but it doesn't smell very good. The air curtain is the front door curtain over here. And it, Granger sells that retail for $2,500. And I don't know what the wholesale price would be that a contractor would buy it for, but probably 30 or 40% less. Anyway, we were billed $8,500 for putting that air handler up. I've been questioning the bid process or lack of the bid process. And I'm just pointing to that one item because it seems extravagant that it's a pretty simple mounting procedure. It comes as a unit, it's up, door opens, fan turns on, blows air down. We didn't get a good deal on that. I don't know who is supposed to be watching that. And I'm not against capitalism where somebody makes a profit, but there's a sales tax issue that goes along with it, I'm sure. The installation cost, I don't know, maybe delivery cost. I can't see where it would be much over $5,000 and there would still be a sizable profit made. And yet it was $8,500 to us. So I bring that out because Mr. Pettit did bring it forward and I think it's a valid issue. So I don't know how we do that as far as review. I was told sometime back that even though there wasn't bids per se, somebody was reviewing it to see that it was in line. So I'm just saying this one doesn't look like it's in line. How many others aren't in line, I don't know. This is a pretty small item, easy one to check on. So I just bring it out. Maybe take a look at Mr. Pettit's email and see what you think of it.
Well, I would, yeah, I mean, just like you said, I would assume that somebody on our side of the fence, whether something was bid or wasn't bid, somebody would be looking at work being done and creating that level of oversight. And that's separate from, you know, and that would be central services, facility staff.
food for thought. Good enough for me, thank you.
Commissioner Fournier, you want to go to your letter? Maybe we don't need to have a meeting this afternoon.
Sure. So, I have a letter. There we go. That I'm hoping that we can all sign on to support the city of Tenino in their, RCO grant request. They're submitting a letter to RCO to request funds for, putting in infrastructure associated with the 60 acres that they just acquired, for planning, designing, building hiking trails, I believe some bathroom facilities, and then doing some other repairs. So Matt has written a letter, that I can provide all of you to review, and, hopefully with your blessing, we could all sign it and get it out as soon as you've had a chance to read it.
I read it.
Yeah, I think I've read it too, so I'm good with you.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I do have a question.
yeah, okay, go ahead.
The letter doesn't refer to a dollar amount. Is there any obligation that, we're gonna be on the hook for any financial assistance?
This is just a letter supporting their
Just the
grant,
support.
their grant request.
And nothing to do with, we might be matching, so.
That would be their responsibility,
Okay.
not ours.
Well, I think it's great. We ought to be supporting that kind of stuff, so.
Do we need to take any kind of formal action for you all to be able to sign it, or can we just make it available for you to sign upstairs, or? What do you wanna do?
We all agree to do that, we can circulate the letter.
Okay.
Cool.
Commissioner, if you work with the clerk, she can facilitate.
Okay.
Getting
Citizens, generally speaking, they really don't care if the park's in a city or in the county or it's a state park.
Yeah.
And so anything we can do to help one of our partners, just basically helps all of us, so.
Certainly.
The one issue I did see is, a restroom that needed redoing, I guess that's the best way I can put it. So, we don't know if they're asking for $1 million or 100,000 or 10 million, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're just gonna ask for
We're
whatever.
just saying,
We're
hey,
supporting them.
We like what they're doing.
Okay, good enough, I'm with you. Thank you, good idea.
Anyone else? So this will be, again, we'll meet this afternoon, we should check in, so if there's anything you wanted to check in, last call. Okay, good, then we'll adjourn. See everybody tomorrow morning at 9.